And it's recording. Okay, good. So I want to welcome everyone. My name is Joanne Held. I'm the chair of the Hopewell Valley Green Team, which comprises members from Hopewell Borough, Hopewell Township, and Pennington Borough. And if you're from outside of that area, you probably just think of it as one big blur, and that's fine because we see it that way too when we talk about the environment. Really can't talk about recycling in one municipality and not the next. So we're really happy to be here tonight, launching this journey toward zero waste. And where is it? Okay. And I will show my slides. So this is our, we decided to call this journey towards zero waste because we're not expecting that at the end of the night, you'll know exactly how to leave a zero waste existence, but we need to keep making those steps in the right direction. And so this is perhaps the beginning of your journey. For most of it, we're probably in the middle of our journey towards zero waste. And next slide. And it doesn't want me to do that. Oh, here we go. Sorry. I want to thank all the sponsors for this week of all the Greening Together activities. They include New Jersey Clean Energy, EnviroPhysics Inc., New Jersey Manufacturers, Mrs. G's Appliances, and Cherry Grove Organic Farm. This week, we really do have a whole week of activities, and here's just a few things that are coming up during the rest of the week. Tomorrow night, you'll hear Trenton Talks Transportation. You'll hear some really cool stuff, both from the perspective of green transportation and also some art projects that they're doing in Trenton. On Wednesday, Lawrence Green Team has the lead to talk about stormwater and other kinds of water related stuff. We're just calling it Water Wednesday. On Thursday, sign in early at 6:30 and you can be part of the Ultimate Green Kahoot that is being led by some students from Ryder. That's followed at 7 by another Lawrence-led session on green infrastructure, but they're hosting a speaker from the Watershed Institute who will help us with that. And then there's a couple of activities on Friday about Arbor Day, and they're really going to be great for learning about trees and pests. And we encourage especially children and families to join, but I think everybody could learn from that. So those are the things coming up this week, and we hope that you'll be on as many as you can. Our agenda for tonight is to, we're going to start by reminding ourselves why waste is a problem. We're going to talk about doing a home waste audit. We're going to hear about one solution to waste, which is reusable gift bags from seeds to sow. We'll talk about your plastic-free life. Oh, that should be life, not live. And we're going to talk about recycling right with help from the West Windsor Girl Scouts. And as I've sort of noted, this is really a group effort from green teams all over Mercer County. And so we're really happy to have had help from the West Windsor Girl Scouts on some of our presentations. Then I'll shift over to composting with Melissa Rowe, who lives in Lawrence, and she's also got some West Windsor stuff to share. If we have time, I'll talk about saving energy because that's something we also don't want to waste. And then I'd like to have a time for breakouts where we can share with each other our individual waste problems and how we're going, maybe help each other find solutions. And throughout the evening, I hope that you'll be able to share in the chat some of your favorite solutions. We'll try and save that all at the end. In fact, after this session is over, I will finalize a list of online resources that we'll be able to send out, that we're trying to figure out how to make available to you. I think you'll be able to get it from our Mercer County Sustainability Coalition website. But I don't want to share it tonight because it only has my stuff on it. And I think you're going to come up with some more stuff that we should add onto it. So help us build up the list tonight. I want to start with the talking about why waste is a problem. And I'm assuming that if you're here tonight, you kind of already know that waste is a problem. If you need to share, convince other people, you might take them to a video that's been around for quite a while now, maybe 15 years. It's called The Story of Stuff. It's great. It goes through a lot of different issues related to all the stuff that we own and all the waste that we generate. I'm just going to share with you a little bit of the trailer for The Story of Stuff to help get us started and be thinking the right way. So, oh, it looks like it's going to work.
Do you have one of these? I got a little obsessed with mine. In fact, I got a little obsessed with all my stuff. Have you ever wondered where all the stuff we buy comes from and where it goes when we throw it out? I couldn't stop wondering about that, so I looked it up. And what the textbook said is that stuff moves through a system from extraction to production to distribution to consumption to disposal. All together, it's called the materials economy. Well, I looked into it a little bit more. In fact, I spent 10 years traveling the world, tracking where our stuff comes from and where it goes. And you know what I found out? That is not the whole story. There is a lot missing from this explanation. For one thing, this system looks like it's fine. No problem. But the truth is, it's a system in crisis. And the reason it's a system in crisis is it's a linear system and we live on a finite planet. And you cannot run a linear system on a finite planet indefinitely. Every step along the way, this system is interacting with the real world. In real life, it's not happening on a blank white page. It's interacting with societies, cultures, economies, the environment. And all along the way, it's bumping up against limits. Limits we don't see here because the diagram is incomplete. So let's go back through. Let's fill in some of the blanks and see what's missing. Well, one of the most important things that's missing is people. Yes.
Back. Stop sharing. Yes, I hope that I was getting a strange message. So hopefully you're able to see that little snippet from The Story of Stuff. And yes, people is one of the things missing from that diagram she was just showing, and that includes us. We're going to talk about today mostly just the end of the line, though, what happens to all of our stuff, and try and find ways that we can reduce the amount of waste we actually produce. When you get really into it, you'll start to go back up the chain and start to think about, well, this thing that I have, how was it produced and what kind of damage is it doing to our environment? But for tonight, we're not going to bite off the whole big chunk. We're going to focus more on what we can do to reduce the amount of waste that we produce. And what I would like to suggest is that if you're going to do that, the first thing you want to do is a home waste audit. And I'm going to share with you some steps in how to do a home waste audit. This, what I'm showing you tonight will be available as on our resource list once we get it posted later in the week. So I hope that you'll find this also a useful way. And let's see, I will share my next slide, which is, yes, how to do a home waste audit. And I want to give credit to the staff and students at Hopewell Valley Central High School who developed this tool and said they'd be more than happy to have us share it with you. And also, I think that the art department had a little bit to do with putting this together as well. It's just gorgeous. So how to do a home waste audit. They suggest that you start with 3 days worth of trash, including your recycling and all your food waste. I'm not bathroom waste, probably. If it goes into a little basket, fine. But you might also need to keep your food waste separate from the other way, the dry waste, the wet waste and the dry waste when you're gathering up your 3 days of trash. They suggest that you might want to have some gloves, maybe an apron. When we're working through this, put down a tarp, and I'll show you have a chart and You'll need a pencil, a clipboard maybe, and maybe a scale or a calculator to to get started on your home waste audit. So the first step is collect 3 days worth of waste. Remember, include your recycling because that's really waste you wanted to, and any kind of waste that you have, you want to dispose of properly. Put out a big tarp and start to sort it. Get your data collection chart. It's got some categories on it like plastic, glass, paper, food, and you might want to either weigh what you have after you separate it, or you might want to measure it in some way. So first, that's the first step is get out your tarp. Second step is spread out all the trash so you can see it and start to sort it. Here's your categories: plastics, paper products, glass, metal, food waste, and then probably a miscellaneous other category. Next, you'll use a data collection chart. I'm going to skip ahead. Here's what it looks like. To write down how many pieces of each item you have. You might want to say by the piece. You might want to use weight if you want to get a scale. You might do a volume of stuff, a cubic foot or something like that. But take all of your data and record it on a sheet like this. For each of the categories of even within plastics, you will probably want to have subcategories. All the paper products, you might want subcategories: glass, metal, food waste, miscellaneous, the number of items, the weight of the items, whatever makes sense for you. You'll do this again at the end, and maybe set for yourself a goal that within another month or so, or maybe 3 months, you'll go back and do it again and see if you've made progress. So you'll want to save this sheet. So create some great waste reduction goals. And maybe tonight you'll think of some even before you get a chance to do your waste audit. Have a family meeting. It's so important to do this as a family or with other people that you live with, because if you decide to do something they don't, it's going to be really frustrating. You might want to reduce your plastics or start using a compost bin or drinking more tap water, all kinds of things. So you'll be collecting your data. And I'm going to come back out for a moment. So that's the first thing I'm suggesting that you all do is do your home waste audit. And what I'd like to ask you now is, oh, and I see you didn't see the video, so I'll try and figure out how to do it better next time. Or maybe I'll skip my next video. Is think about it just a minute. If you had just finished your home waste audit, what do you think would be something that you would find the most in your home waste audit? What kinds of stuff are you going to be finding when you do your home waste audit? And just put it in the chat. I think food wrappers is a really important one because you think well, I'm just buying food, and then all of a sudden you realize you have waste left over. um, okay, thank you, Kate, for this. Let's see. Yeah, so, oh, takeout containers. Yeah, that's a real bear. And right now, you probably have more than you usually have because you can't actually go to a restaurant. We're all trying to support our local restaurants. And so we've got a gazillion takeout containers and probably driving all of us crazy. But anyway, those are so that gives you something to be thinking about tonight as we go through ways to reduce our waste. So going back to my, no, that's not where I wanted to go. Sorry. Can you tell I practiced beforehand? So I would never have any trouble. So There is another video I'm going to attempt to show. I'm only going to show like a minute of it. So if it doesn't show up, but I just found out how there's something I'm supposed to check in the bottom here. Yeah.
Hi, Joanne. It's Kate. When you go to share,
Yeah.
when you're first sharing your screen, at the very bottom, there's a checkbox that allows you to share sound.
Okay.
Which has been a lot of, yeah.
Oh, that's part of the problem. Okay. Well, let me try.
There you go.
Okay, share sound. All right. Thank you. Where's my, here we go. So, I want to share another little video with you that, that is one of those things that you've probably seen a whole lot of times. This is a family of 5, and they make almost no waste. And it can be incredibly depressing when you hear these things because you think, I can never do that. But I think it's interesting to hear their perspective. So we're going to give this a try. And Carol, text me if it's not working.
I was never able to find a bra that fits my small
Sorry.
chest. For as long as I can remember, being small was something.
I thought I got rid of the ads, but
they're projected to produce more plastic in the next decade than has been produced since the 1950s. It's possible for an average suburban family to be able to do something about that.
We can't see your
So
video.
that we can minimise the negative and harmful impacts that we have.
We can hear it, but no video.
We can
okay.
only hear it.
All right, thank you. I'm just going to skip that. I knew I was getting too fancy. So let me stop my share and go back into, so that I just wanted to show you just kind of what one family is doing, and they're basically using a lot of reusable packaging. And that leads me to my first concrete example of the night. I wanted to share with you one really beautiful and simple way to reduce the amount of packaging that you have. Oops, sorry. Cancel. Next. Reduce the amount of packaging you deal with, and that is wrapping paper. And to tell us about that, I want to turn this over to Ellen Ito from Seeds to Sow. Seeds to Sow is a company that is right here in Hopewell Borough, and we're so proud of them for the work they do. And I thought that this would be the most beautiful way to start our sharing of tips. So I'm going to stop share and let Ellen take over. Ellen? I know she's here. There she is. And you're still muted.
Here we go.
There you go. Thanks.
You're muted.
Yeah, you got remuted. There are some devices that do that to you. We have to figure out how to make that stop.
She said she cannot unmute. She asked if you could unmute her.
Well, you were okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, good. So I'm on my phone just because sometimes the video and audio gets unsynced. Let me see if I can share my screen here. By the way, Joanne, thank you so much for inviting us. I always love to share our project. And Nina Mokuba, Nina is here with me now as well. And so I'll just take you through very quickly. And so we're Seeds to Sow International. We have a shop that is based right in Hopewell Borough on Seminary Avenue, just up from Tomatello's and Otto Burger. We are a Hopewell-based 501c3, and our focus is on improving the lives of women and girls through access to education and skills training. We work with women and girls in rural Kenya, and the products that I'm going to share with you are made by women in our program as a way to learn how to sew. We're members of the Fair Trade Federation, as well as Green America. Stop me at any time, by the way, if anyone has any questions. Our sewing program teaches women how to sew. They learn small business skills, They become empowered. They earn a sustainable income. We work in areas where girls are usually married by 12 or 13, and so they're usually undereducated. So this gives them an opportunity to participate in their economy. What Joanne was speaking to is our Enkiteng bags. These are fabric gift wrapped bags, wrapping bags that are made from donated fabric, so they're upcycled. They're multi-purpose, they're reusable and regiftable, so they're eco-friendly. The ribbon is already attached, so it's all in one. You don't need papers or scissors. You could just tie it in beautiful ways. And the sew-in bags provide our participants, our seamstresses, with significant income. They're totally socially responsible. And they've enabled some of our participants to go on and purchase cows and enter into other micro enterprises. This is how the product works. This is how you can use the bags to wrap a gift. There's no sound, by the way. And so, oops, here we go. There we go. And so as women are earning income sewing from the upcycled fabrics, they then learn how to take that income and invest in some of the Eastern African fabrics. It's called kitenge. And so they're able to earn additional income making these reusable, very colorful Eastern African style. They also then go on to make other things. And we sell all of these in our shop, also through wholesale. Knapsacks, the shoulder bags, which are great for shopping, by the way, skirts, aprons, and masks, which are very attractive these days. Other products made by our participants are things like beaded items. The wristbands you see there are made with recycled tires, the wooden items, and then little animal figurines made from banana tree bark. Anyways, Joanne, I appreciate your allowing us to share our passion. And again, visit us anytime. Just going back to the bags real quickly, they can be used for so many different things. And in our household, every Christmas, we recycle the bags. We send them back and forth to family members.
Yeah, I've used the bag so many times that I was at a party once and I didn't put a gift tag on my bag. My mother picked it up and said, "Who's this from?" And my whole family shouted, "It's from Joanne." They knew it was me. Yeah, they're wonderful. So this is a really easy and fun way to start to reduce waste in your life and also do some really good things for the women in Africa that Ellen has been working with. And it's just, and you'll find their bags at a few other places as well. It's fun to go into their shop, but I know Pals on Main has them and a few other spots as well. You'll find those bags. You definitely want to start using those. Any questions for Ellen before we go on?
No, but they're beautiful.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Thank you.
Anika?
Do you deliver, like, I was wondering, how do you get them to Kenya since do you have a multiple business? Like, do you have a business in Kenya as well, or do you ship?
Yeah, so we send shipments of the fabric, and then we have our coordinator there on that end work with our seamstresses. And then we also, they then will send them back. It used to be through students and people going back and forth. And so we're hitting a little bit of a logjam right now, but that will soon be resolved. We do actually have a program in Kenya where our seamstresses are learning how to sew school uniforms for that local group so that they can become self-sustaining as well.
Also, do you do a delivery service? Like, do you deliver to houses or no?
I guess we haven't. I guess we could if it's local.
Yeah. But do you have like a virtual site where you can order?
We do. Our website, theseedstosow.org, you can go online and you can order online. That's also where our wholesale fair trade partners can also access the things we have for sale.
Yep, and Seeds to Sow is definitely on our resource list that we'll be sending out, along with links to those 2 videos that you couldn't see before. So thank you, Ellen. That was great. It's a great way for us to get started. I'm going to go on now to talk about plastics. So I know so we can all get depressed for a little while. I'm going to assume that you all understand that there's way too much plastic out there. Plastic is not working really well right now, although some of the Girl Scouts will help us figure out how to do better. But we need to do more in the area of reducing the amount of plastics in our life. So last July, our coalition actually posted every day on our website and on Facebook another thing about plastic and how to reduce it in your life. And I wanted to share a few of the ideas from last summer with you. And so here we go. And this is still thinks I'm going to share. Sorry, now it always wants to share sound. And I think the important thing is to adopt the motto, choose to refuse single-use plastic. When you look at something and say, that's just been used for like a matter of minutes and it's going to go into the trash, I've got to find a way not to use it. So here's some ideas. And again, as we're going through these, some of them I will not actually be telling you what the solution is because I don't have a lot of good ones. But if you have found any, please put them in the chat. So first, say no to plastic cling wrap and Ziploc bags. There's so many cool alternatives. There's wax impregnated cloth. There's the stretchy silicone covers. You can use a wrapping mat for your sandwich instead of a Ziploc bag. There's really, really cool and beautiful ways that you can totally avoid plastics when it comes to wrapping up foods at your own home in your kitchen. Now, if you were thinking back to your waste audit, do you think you would have found a lot of yogurt cups in your waste audit? If you did, you could learn to make your own yogurt. I make my own yogurt. I still end up with a couple of things because I need a milk carton, although I should probably find bottled milk, and some yogurt starter occasionally, but you can make your own yogurt, and that's on our resources, is one place at least that you can get a recipe for making your own yogurt. Now here's a challenge for you. Find a bakery that will let you bring your own containers. If you go to a bakery, almost everything is already in a plastic. The bread's all in plastic bags. They put stuff in paper bags. They put stuff in boxes and bins. Think about a bakery that might let you bring your own container. And I think you might have pretty good luck at some farmers markets if you bring your container. So think about that. It's a good challenge. What about tea bags? Really? It's surprising how many tea bag brands use plastic in making the tea bag. You should consider looking for tea bags that are made out of compostable materials. Maybe they don't even have this staple on them, so there's no metal involved, or you might consider using loose tea leaves. It takes a little more time, but you actually have a little more control over how you make your tea if you do that. When you're ready to eat at a restaurant again, bring your own doggy bag. Use any container from your kitchen. Or a collapsible bowl that's easy to carry, a bento box at the handle, anything that you have from home, bring it with you if you're if you're likely to have leftovers. I know the restaurants I go to are more than happy to have me put stuff in my own box and save them from putting it into one of their boxes. Here's another challenge: plastic-free dental products. How many of you have a toothbrush that's made of plastic? Or how many of you have dental floss that's probably plastic coated string, a plastic string that's coated with something and then put into another plastic container? There are bamboo toothbrushes readily available now. So then you still just have a little bit of plastic. There's cotton floss in a glass jar that I found recently from a company called Net Zero. It's a great company, Net Zero. I go there all the time now to find solutions to these problems. Are you a reusable water bottle fanatic? I bet you all are. I bet you all, have to think long and hard about the last time you drank water out of a single-use plastic bottle. That's great. But what about your friends? How can you get your friends to also switch to reusable water bottles? And the question always comes up is, what will I use to line my trash can? If I don't have single-use plastic bags, I can use them a second time. I'll line my trash bags. Well, we're going to have to give up those single-use plastic bags before too long, because the bag ban will be kicking in before within a year or so in New Jersey. So consider compostable bags. You have to pay for them, but it's not that expensive. And when they get to the landfill, they'll break down along with like food waste that might be in your bag. Put on your thinking cap, get creative, look around and see what else you have that's going to go in the trash anyway and might be a good way to line your trash cans. Of course, bring your bag, bring your own bag. And West Windsor has a great bring your own bag fact sheet that we're going to be sharing in the resources. You're going to have to do it anyway when the bag bill ban kicks in. So start doing it now if you aren't already. Stores don't mind really. Maybe they frown at you once or twice, but there's so many of us bringing our own bags that they're used to it now. So bring your own bag whenever you can. And you can learn more from this website called Plastic Free July. And that's on our resource list. They have things like how to, what kind of soap that you can use to get around plastics, using a reusable razor. They even have a page about party decorations and that you can use and not use any plastic. And the most important thing, I think, is you don't have to do this alone. We're really a community of people who are looking ways to reduce the amount of plastic in our lives. And the more that when we learn about something, if you find the tea bag that doesn't have any plastic, tell your friends. And if you're stuck on something, tell your friends that too, and they'll help you. And the more that we buy these, make our choices to be things that don't have plastic in it, the more there'll be a market for things that don't have plastic in it, the more companies like the Net Zero company will have customers and will be more than happy to start providing us, selling us these plastic-free components. So that's my spiel about getting rid of plastics in your life. And I'm going to stop share for just a moment to see what kinds of things you put into the chat. Oh, great. We do have, actually, and they're asking if the girls can go next. And actually, I am going on to recycling next. Bulk tea, flaxseed crackers, a drawstring bowl cover, all kinds of really great things. I'm going to save the chat when we're through. I'm going to make some of this a part of the resources as well, so that we can keep on learning from each other. So I'm going to move on because the Girl Scouts need to finish up their part, and they're next. Share. Cancel. So we have some Girl Scouts from West Windsor who have been working on issues related to recycling, and we're calling it, I'm calling it Recycle Right, because sometimes you just end up with stuff that you can't, you couldn't not acquire, and you want to recycle it, you have to do it right. And I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth Cheniara to introduce the Scouts. Elizabeth?
Yep. Well, thank you, Joanne, and thank you so much for inviting us here tonight. We are a 5th grade troop from West Windsor, and I see some of my neighbors here on the screen. The girls have been working on their bronze project, which is supposed to focus on a particular issue. So I am going to turn it over to Serena.
Okay. So, hi, my name is Selena. As my mom mentioned, we are Girl Scout Troop 70053 from West Windsor Plainsboro, and we're excited to share with you our presentation.
And do you have a copy, or do you want me to show it from try it for mine. I should show it? Okay. Fingers crossed, everyone. This is not a YouTube, so I think we have a better shot at it. And it's going to be, oops, I mean, just, sorry. It's get this going, and then share screen. And here we go. It's from a QuickTime player, so I think we're more likely to get it to work. Shout out if you can't hear, okay? Oh, it says to share your computer audio, please install the Zoom audio device. Oh my gosh. Why is this happening to me for the first time after a year?
Joanne, what we can also do, we have Caitlin online, and she's ready with standby of the webpage, our website. So we can switch it over to Caitlin.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That would be great. Let's do that, because I'm going to stop my share.
Okay.
Thank you. It's good to have a backup plan. That's why I like dealing with Girl Scouts.
Caitlin?
Hi, my name is Caitlin. I'm the creator and webmaster of Recycling with Care. Since everyone is virtual this year, we thought a good way to share the information our True Press learned for this project was by creating a website. On this website, you would find a recycling trivia game and much more. In the Learn section of this website, there's environmental vocabulary in the Save the Environment presentation, which we will now share with you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Anika Kasarabada, and I will be talking to you about our Save the Environment presentation. So I actually shared this presentation with my classmates. It talks about the problems of the environment, water pollution, plastic usage, and many more problems. But I shared this with my classmates to see their reaction, because we want more people, more and more, the more the merrier, to know about our project and to see what they can learn from this. We don't want it to just be our neighbors, friends, and at this time we can't really go to other people's house and sit inside. So it's best to have a Zoom call with our friends and show them that way. We actually thought that everyone would agree with what we're saying and be like, yeah, that's a great idea. But what shocked us was that some people actually disagreed with our idea. In my class, a few people were like, we do not agree with your situation. And it was really interesting to see what other people thought, because we thought that everyone would be like, oh, okay, that's nice, yeah. But some people disagreed because they said that they either they use plastic a lot or their parents use it a lot and they don't know if they can keep up with all the promises and stuff. But overall, this is our Save the Environment presentation, and Caitlin will be scamming through it a little, so you can take a few seconds to look over it. Thank you.
And as we go through, maybe Mira, you can also share about the club that you're involved in at Village.
Yeah, I was just about to share that. So I am also in the Green Team in the West Windsor Village School. It is my second year being in the Green Team and supporting the environment in Village School. Some things that we do in the Green Team are we collect can tabs for sick kids who go to the Ronald McDonald House, who give it to the recycling plant to weigh it, and then the recycling plant then gives them money for the can tabs. That money then goes to the Ronald McDonald House. We also collect plastic caps and make art murals out of them instead of them going to waste. The art teacher is also involved in this, and it's like a big project that we would do if we were in person and if there was no pandemic. We also grow green beans in our garden for the food bank Jewish Children and Family Services. I also wanted to go back to the second point that I made, that we collect plastic caps and make art murals out of them. In the first year that I had gone to Village School, I saw on the side of the lunchroom that there was an art mural of it, and it was really cool. It had all different colors, different shapes, and I think that the way that the Green Team supports people and things that people wouldn't really notice or wouldn't really like think to do anything for, the green team helps and supports that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mira. And then perhaps Caitlin, if you don't mind sharing the oath, and perhaps Ritika could share some comments, some of the oath, you know, what we are asking people to do. So basically, you know, what the girls had done here was each of them had taken some ideas and tried to think about what is doable, what is manageable that they can share with their class. So Ritika, here are some items that you know, we came up with.
Yeah, so for our oath to recycle, we were thinking of like basically, I guess, promises that the people that read our oath can follow. So like some examples are like the first one, which is I promise to uphold the ways of recycling. And our second one, which is I will always remember to follow the rules of the 3 R's. And then on the bottom, you could click either I acknowledge them or I do not acknowledge them. And then after that, you could write down why you chose it to see like what you were thinking while clicking that. And then afterwards, you could submit it along with the other one.
Great. Well, thank you. And then Caitlin, do you mind sharing the data?
So we have access to review the responses from the recycling oath. After sharing with our family, friends, and classmates, we noticed 2 responses indicating that they did not acknowledge the oath. One of those responses indicated, quote, the only reason I don't acknowledge is because I tried to get my mom to start using reusable water bottles, not plastic ones, but she says they are harder to rinse, end quote. This showed us that individuals want to recycle, however, it may not always be feasible to recycle.
Great. Thank you, Caitlin. And then maybe Sarah?
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I'm a part of Troop 70053. And from sharing our project with others, we realized that a lot of people want to recycle, but just don't know how. So we came up with suggestions for you to consider. We thought about merchandising magnets, places where more people can see them, and you could also put up recycling posters on like different buildings and trees. And I hope you enjoyed my troop's presentations. As you can see, it's not just about recycling, but also about what, how, and where to recycle. I hope that this presentation helps our community recycle with care. Thank you for listening to this presentation.
Thank you. That was terrific. And I was so glad you're all prepared to do that. So I think we learned a lot from you tonight. I'm just going to pause and ask if anybody has any questions for our scouts before we move on.
No, but I think it's great that they were trying to, that you guys were trying to, you know, find out from your classmates what the obstacles were for them. I think that even though the one who said, well, my mother isn't going to be, you know, isn't able to do it, you have still educated your classmate so that when even with if the mom can't do it or won't do it, the classmate is still very aware of what that piece of plastic in the trash can is all about, and is going to try harder, him or herself, as they grow older. So I think you've still accomplished something, even with the folks that that have not necessarily said they could acknowledge your oath.
And so they have put the oath in the chat, and I'm going to also add their web page to the resource page. So we'll have that as well to go back to, because there's a lot of good stuff on that web page. So thank you very much for sharing with us tonight. I think that we learned a lot about plastics, but also about psychology, which is important. Terza, are you raising your hand?
Yes, so I had one more as a fellow West Windsorite. Thank you so much Very, very inspired by the presentations tonight. I had one thought. We have an outlier supermarket that's been the talk in the various places, including in Princeton and West Windsor, and they're very nice people. And it's McCaffrey's, and I go there all the time to ask when they are going to stop offering single-use plastic bags. And I wonder if, as we get more comfortable going inside, which, you know, and so I don't want to assume that you are, but when the time comes, if the kids are comfortable and go shopping, might they, as a small group, ask to speak to management and show them, you know, do a printout of these fantastic slides and ask if the store would consider not offering single-use plastic bags like a lot of other supermarkets around us. Um, I think, you know, our young people are really stakeholders, and they may have more influence over our merchants than older folk like me.
So Teresa, are you thinking of getting them to do stuff in advance of what's required by the plastic
Yes, because
reusable bag ban?
my thought is yes, because like Wegmans, for example, has signage up. Did you remember to bring your reusable bag? They have them in the parking lot, and they don't offer, well, they go back and forth, but I think the trend is that they won't be offering single-use plastic bags. And of course, Trader Joe's doesn't offer them. So yes, the idea is, how do we encourage what we call best practices? Because as a community, we want to be ahead of the law. And we know that the late date for the law was put in probably because the plastics industry had a hand in it, not because it's the best thing for all of us.
Great.
That is a consideration for us as another element of going into our local grocery store and, you know, seeing if we can make some changes that way.
So,
Thank you.
Anika, do you want to speak?
Yes, I also wanted to acknowledge that thank you so much for inviting us here, because not only did you guys learn something, we learned a lot too, and it's really fun. And actually Mother's Day is coming up, and I was thinking of getting some things from this shop that that Ellen was talking about, because it seems really, really cool, and the idea is very, very thoughtful. And thank you, Miss Joanne. We learned a lot from your presentation, and it's going to help us in the future. So
great. Well, thank you. I want to move on to our next topic for tonight, which is composting. And to introduce it, I just want to point out that let's see, 40% of all the food grown in America is wasted. That's a pretty well-established fact now. 40%, can you imagine? And so EPA has been looking at, you know, how can we do better on the food waste? And they have developed a food recovery hierarchy. They said the first thing to do is just not make food that's not going to be needed, reduce the surplus. The second is to feed hungry people with stuff that's left over in soup kitchens and shelters and other ways. Some can be food waste that people don't want to eat, could be used to feed animals. There's some industrial uses for food waste. In fact, I've heard that some bakeries and breweries and places are able to use some stuff from food waste. And the next thing in the list is composting. And I think this is where we all come in. We may not be able to do all of these other things, but we definitely can do composting. It's a lot easier than you think. And so Melissa is here tonight to take us on a little tour of how we can do some composting. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
Hi, everybody. As Joanne mentioned earlier, I'm from Lawrence, and I'm also a teacher in Trenton. And I have 2 boys at Eldridge Park School. I'm going to talk while I'm sharing my screen, by the way. And where I'm the PTO president. And this past weekend, we actually had a really cool Earth Day Fest at the school that I'm very proud of. So here we go. I'm bringing up my PowerPoint. And I've always been a huge sustainability advocate. So this is an honor for me to do this for sure. So let's see, I have it sharing and I want it to be presenting, not my notes. Okay, so today I'm gonna talk a little bit about composting. I'm assuming most people here compost. And actually, if you do compost, you can raise your hand and let me know. And if everybody here composts, then I'll keep that in mind while I'm talking and I won't be preaching to the choir as much. So if you compost already, raise your hand. Does everybody know how to do that?
Is it from the reactions section? Does it count if I just take my compostables and give them to somebody else to turn into compost?
Yes.
Okay.
So a lot of people, I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up. Not everybody though. So that's cool. So it's mixed. So those of you who do, awesome. Those of you who don't, awesome that you're here. So basically, let me see. So who here composts? We raised our hands. Tonight I'm gonna talk a little bit about composting and that what it is, when, why we would compost, and how is gonna be the bulk of it. And then a couple resources, troubleshooting, and questions. So first off, we all pretty much know what compost is. It's a natural process that turns waste products into goodness. So like Joanne was saying, I was reading a third, but 40%, that's all about the same number where we're throwing a lot of our food out. So that makes no sense. We should do something with it. So in the, hold on, I learned how to do this. In the, no, I can't. Okay. When I was doing it at home, I was able to bring up a whiteboard, but in the chat, you can write why we should compost. Because I know why, but I want to see what you all think why we should compost. Because I want to try to make this as interactive as possible. I don't want to sit here and talk for 15 minutes straight. That's silly. So I'm going to wait a couple seconds and see what you have to say. Why am I not seeing the chat? Give me a second.
There's a whole bunch of good stuff coming in.
I know, and I turned off my chat accidentally. Give me 1 second.
I think they've all been good answers.
Okay, I don't know where it went. That's weird.
Trust us.
Okay. Well, does anybody want to read them?
Well, they're going by so fast.
Oh, good. Okay.
But here's my favorite one already. Makes the trash can less gross.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah. And it great makes something that you can use, something useful instead of something that will just go and fill up a landfill, and reduces methane emissions from landfills. That's great. A lot of, reducing and at the same time getting something good.
Thank you, because my chat, oh, there goes my chat. It was under all my windows. So it's pretty silly. Okay, so anyway, great ideas. And this was one thing I wanted to add. This is how much trash I read we threw, food waste that we threw out in 1 year. I think it was 2019 or 18, where it was 63 million tons, which is a really hard number to I mean, it sounds like a lot, right? So I imagine it being 15 million elephants, which is because an elephant's about 5 tons, I think is what I figured out. So imagine, that's even hard to imagine. So here I'm going to give you another mental image. there's about almost 9 million people in New Jersey, and there's about 9 million people, 8 million people in New York City. So all the people in New York City and all the people in New Jersey turn into an elephant, and that's how much food the United States threw out in a year. And that seems like a lot of food, right? So we should do something with all that food. Another reason why is methane emissions. Landfills give off a lot of methane gas that's bad for the environment. I was surprised to see that it's more than coal mining, actually, because people get upset about that. And it's double. So we should cut that out, definitely. So how do we start a compost bin? So some of you compost already, great. I assume a lot of you have compost bins in various shapes and forms, and there's tons of different ways to do this. So basically what you would do is you would choose one of these methods. I mean, there's so many methods. You can do a trench in your backyard. You can do a worm tower. You can send it out to the town if you choose. And that's all those methods are great. You have to think about your space. You know, do you live in an apartment? If you live in an apartment, you can still compost. There's plenty of ways to do that. It's just probably going to look a little smaller, and that's okay. Is it going to be indoor and outdoor? I have both going right now in my home. I have an indoor worm tower and I have an outdoor trench as well, and I'm looking to expand. And then how much time you have. Certain methods take more time, and then how much waste comes into play, especially when you do something like worms and you don't want to overwhelm the worms, which I know a lot about. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here about that, but if anybody wants to start vermicomposting, let me know, because that's one of my favorites. In fact, at the end, I can show you my worm bin if everybody sticks around. You don't have to click on all these links, but I just want to tell you how easy it was to find like all these different ways. In fact, the one in the middle is one of my worm bins. And in these links here, there's like 90 different compost bin types that you can do. And I think I was going to have the Girl Scout video here because they show you how to make a really cool compost bin that I liked a lot. So let me see if I can bring that up for you. Which is right here. And this isn't as easy as, I can't just switch. I can probably turn off the share and then redo it to the video. Hold on. And Google Meets, it just lets you switch. New share, okay. Composting, share right there, we want that one. And so, all right, let's see if this video, let's see if we can get one to work tonight. All right, can everybody see? Joanne, can you see the video?
I see the word composting.
Okay.
And yeah, video started.
Is there music?
Hear a little bit in the background.
A little bit.
Oh.
But they have good captions on this
one. They do very much so.
Yeah.
It's like blasting in my ears.
Well, they made it look easy.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I love that video. It was so well done. So I know it's not the same Girl Scouts that are here tonight, but I'm just saying thank you to those Girl Scouts. That was really nice to do. The only comment I had about the video, and I'm going to bring this up in a minute, was the green to brown ratio that they had, which is, I see different ratios in different books all over the place. But they had one that was more greens to brown, which it should probably be more browns to greens. And I'll get into that later on why. I'll get into it quickly because the next part of this is how, and this is the bigger part of what I wanted to talk about. And they went over some of this already, where you want it moist. And I always describe it as you want it to be kind of like the moistness of like wet laundry is a good idea about how wet you want it to be. I will talk a little more detail about ingredients and turning in temperature and harvesting. So ingredients, we don't have to worry so much about the organisms and oxygen. I mean, oxygen's here. And then the water again, moisture, and then greens and browns is what I want to talk about a little bit more. And they had this is theirs from their presentation, which was really good, list here about what greens are and what browns are, and then what not to put in a compost bin. So greens are, I kind of think of it more of like the fresher stuff, you know, like your kitchen scraps and stuff like that. And then browns are like more of like the dead, drier stuff. And you want a lot more browns in there than what they said, because it will start to stink if you have too much greens. And we'll get into troubleshooting later. But you want more browns than greens. And with turning in temperature, this is something that I'm more of like I want to say not a lazy composter, but I'm much more passive in my composting. I don't really stir it a lot. But if you start stirring it and you heat it, you can get it hotter and it'll compost faster. And that's just something to think about. It's a little more complicated. You know, you can look into what the temperature should be to make it compost really fast. But I just let it sit for the most part, and it does its job. And then when it's done, it's not going to smell bad. I mean, your compost shouldn't smell bad. Usually there's a problem if it smells really bad, but finished compost is going to smell like earth, and you'll see a reduction in the compost. And I mean, it'll be marked, and then it's not hot anymore. Heat is indicating that it's still breaking down, because it is a chemical reaction. So this is just a recap. You know, I talked about setting up a bin. I talked about what you do to a bin. And then there's some resources that I like a lot. Worms Eat My Garbage is a really good book. It's old. It's been around a long time. There's 35th anniversary, and I think the picture says there. But you can get a little bit out of this book. You can get a lot about this book, but I learned a lot of stuff about worm composting from this book. It's at the garden virtually. You can read it right online tonight. Then Square Foot Gardening has a lot of information about composting and gardening that was very helpful, especially in a small space, because not all of us have, you know, full farms to do all this stuff on. And then Compost Stew is a cute kids book. If any of you are teachers or have children and want to read a good compost book to your kids. And then I've been reading How to Build, Maintain, and Use a Compost System and liking it a lot. So I shared those 4 books. And then troubleshooting. Does anybody have any problems they've had that they want to ask or talk about? You could ask in the chat and I can address them, or we can chat later about it. But here's some common problems that I know what to do when that happens. So I don't need to get into each of them, but that's that. And then here's the wrap up. Here's my email too, if anybody has any further questions that you don't feel like asking, like in a big group or something. I'll field any questions. It's fine. Ask me whatever you want. So that's the end.
Yeah, looking through see if there's any questions. Oops, I just jumped. Oh, here's a question. What's the smallest compost bin one can use? Especially like it comes from somebody who lives in a townhouse community, so there's not a lot of space.
I would probably recommend like a small, even like a worm tower, like something. I mean, you can get some, like just they have bags even too. I mean, this is a thing that is definitely feasible to do in a compost in a condo. Worms will do it faster. So if you're living in a small place, I would recommend for that reason that you'd want it to break down quicker, so you can move it along. And then also the towns often offer services too, where they come and in Lawrence it's a small amount of money, but they'll come and pick your compost up, which is great. And then people want compost. Like if you live in a condo and then you can't use it, I'll take your compost. The school across the street will take, you know what I mean? Like there's places to put it.
Oh yeah, that's always an issue too. So somebody said they have trouble with eggshells breaking down. I have the same problem.
I grind mine up. I actually use mine for my worm bin. I put them right in, and the worms don't have, so I could talk for a long time about worm composting. And I considered even focusing on that, but general compost is more accessible, obviously. So the worms don't have teeth, and that's how they need grit. And so you have worms in your compost pile if you have it outside, so you're going to want to. And eggshells are generally, they're not of the material that would break down as easily anyway.
I have a question, Melissa.
Yep.
How do you make a science project from composting? What school? You said that you're teaching school?
Oh, yeah. So we did,
So
I challenged the kids.
Yeah, I'm interested in measuring components, weights, materials, and breaking down what comes out of that in terms of nitrogen.
That would be awesome. Yes.
How do you do that?
I think that would be an awesome thing to do, because while I was putting this together, I was thinking about all these different ratios that people say to put in their compost bin. And I'm like, why is there so many different ratios? And then I realized there's so many different foods. Like not all the food is going to have the exact same nitrogen. Carrots are going to have different amounts. All different vegetables are going to have different amounts of these chemicals in them. So I'm not a chemist. I'm I'm an elementary school teacher, and this is something that is near and dear to me. So that could be, I think, something that, what if you did do, a small container, you can compost in a container this big. I sent home composting containers to the students this weekend that were this big, and I said, this is how you do. So what if you did one type of food in one type of food in the other, and you know how much nitrogen is in each type of food if you look it up? Maybe you could do something like that.
The reason I brought up the idea is because we have lots of Girl Scouts. In middle school and high school, they obviously have all the tools to put together to do quantitative analysis of what goes in and what goes out. And this is tremendously interesting physics and chemistry and biology project. So many things involved. And put together with the lesson plans, you could really do a terrific project.
Have you
for middle school and high school, not elementary school.
Not the elementary school, why not?
Well, maybe. If you're interested, I could help you with that.
Okay.
Oh, I just saw my son's school just started composting, and it's been awesome. So I'm very excited. I donated one of my worm bins to them. So let me see if there's any other. So what I would suggest though with the experiment is just maybe somebody at the university, like maybe there's a chemistry professor that could help with something like that. Somebody who is more versed and ratios of nitrogen and carbon and how they react in the compost pile. I think that would be an awesome thing to do. I would love to help you if you if you need somebody to do lesson plans and
we'll keep you in mind.
Sure.
There's one more question, and then I think we're going to move on. And that was the question of pests, especially rodents and things.
So they do make, if you, I could tell you a bunch. So a bunch of, if it's specifically rodents, they do make closed. If you have to have, if you want to have it outdoors, then and if you if you live in an area that has there's rats getting in your compost pile, because my one friend keeps talking about this, and I tell her, if you want to have it outside, you can get like a cone. Like there's different systems that are closed off. There's so many different types of composting systems, and then you can also bring it inside. Like all my worm bins are inside. There's one right here.
It's tour time. Here it comes.
So yeah, this is just the box, just like the Girl Scouts, you know, and this is not big at all, and it's got, you know, holes in the top and compost inside. A couple fruit flies flew out, but it's simple to do inside. And it doesn't smell. I have one in my dining room and nobody's ever noticed it. When I tell them what it is, they're like, "Oh my God, there's worms in there." So yeah, I mean, if you have rats outside, have your composting on the inside. If you're doing it right, it won't smell in your house. And if you does start to smell, send me an email and I'll look at it for you. Because we all get stuck in our heads. I mean, I even had a problem this past summer where I had bees. Like I walked to the back compost and I'm like, and I couldn't even get close to it. And while I love bees, I have to go and put my compost in the pile without getting swarmed. And I didn't realize mine was actually too wet. Most places will say, check your wetness, where I got stuck in my own head and didn't realize that it was too wet. And then I just added more browns. That's what you would do in that situation. So and then the bees went someplace else to drink.
Well, thank you. This is really a great introduction to a lot of pieces of the composting puzzle.
Yeah, and like I said, I can talk more detail about especially worms and things like that, but thank you for letting me do this.
Sure, I'm going to get some of those resources from you and add them to this list that I'm making, so we can share them out with everybody. So we have two things left tonight. One is a real quick thought of just thinking for a moment about electricity and how we should not waste electricity. And then we're going to take some time to just go to some breakout rooms and share our do some problem solving. So New Jersey Clean Energy Program is one of our sponsors, and they also do an amazing job of offering services to homeowners. And this is going to be like a whirlwind, but they have 4 programs: Home Performance with Energy Star, Warm Advantage and Cool Advantage, and energy efficient product rebates that you should all know about. Everybody should be taking advantage of this. You're already paying for it as part of your utility bill. The Home Performance, actually, they identify contractors who can come in and do a home energy audit for you. And once they do the audit, they'll give you an assessment and recommend things that you can do to save energy, and keeping in mind at the same time health and safety issues. They're not going to tighten up your house so much that you get an indoor air quality problem. In fact, they might identify an indoor air quality problem and help you just fix it. For Home Performance, they actually give you money. Insulation and air sealing come along with the audit, and for depending how much energy you save, you could get up to $2,000 for tier 1, tier 2, and they have higher tiers where you save more energy, do more work, and can get a few $1,000s back on your project. So it's worth considering. They even have some loans. They also have, if you update a heating system, you can get a rebate on energy efficient equipment that you might put in place of old, not efficient equipment. Same for cooling. So if you're thinking, gee, I've got a pretty old system, but I'm not sure if I can afford to replace it yet, think about it. You might, with the rebate and the money you'll save when it's efficient, it might be worthwhile, it might be the time. There are also appliance rebates for things like clothes washers and refrigerators, and even some dryers. If they're Energy Star, you can actually get, you send in confirmation that you bought this, and they'll send you a check for some money to help offset the cost. They'll also pick up some of your old equipment, like old refrigerators, and give you a rebate for retiring really old refrigerators. Old refrigerators are so inefficient. That might be the place where all of your electricity is going. So think about using NJ Clean Energy, and I'll be putting those resources in on our resource page. But now, what I'd really like to do, I hope you're all game, is just break you up into a few rooms where we can brainstorm solutions to the question, what is the toughest problem to keep you from reaching zero waste? So I see we have 20 participants, so I am going to make 5 rooms, 4 people in a room, because I know you all have a lot you want to talk about. So I'm just going to randomly assign you 2 rooms. Hope you don't mind. We'll go into our rooms for about 10 minutes and share ideas about our waste problems and how to solve them. And I'll bring you all back in just 10 minutes so we can share what we learned. And I'm going to assign automatically. I've done this before and it worked last time, so hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll work. And there you go. If you're having trouble getting into the room, there might be something you have to do to join. I'm going to stay here to answer questions. I think.
And the right people into businesses and
Well, welcome back, everybody. Hopefully, you solved some problems while you're off in your rooms. We just have a few minutes left, but I would like to give each room a chance to maybe tell us about one issue that they discussed, even if whether you solved it or not. I think this is the kind of conversation that helps us to advance the whole zero waste conversation. So, anybody from a room that wants to volunteer to report out?
Christine.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, Christine came up with a great solution for plastic waste.
Okay.
So,
Did I? No, I
yep.
didn't. No, I think Ephraim brought up a couple really sort of questions to really narrow in on this, like what can we do to improve recycling, within our communities? And my answer was, as many of the people in Mercer County Coalition know, we really, as a county, as a regional, really enforce or get people to reduce the amount of contamination that goes into the recycling bins. And that is really hard. We really have to stick to just the things that can be recycled, although it's painful to not be able to feel like you can recycle everything. So work regionally to do that. And the other thing that we talked about was advocating for extended producer responsibility, which is the notion that the people who manufacture packaging bear some responsibility or should bear more responsibility for making sure that there are viable recycling markets or reduce the amount of packaging overall, rather than shift all that burden to local governments and to the communities where their waste is going.
Yeah, and isn't there a bill in our legislature that would do that
Yeah.
to some extent? So you could advocate now by letting your legislators know that you think that's important. Yeah, we really need to be advocates. Can you hear from another room? You can volunteer somebody else who was in your room if like Mike did. Is a good example, Mike.
Hi, it's Terza.
Mhm.
We also talked about extended producer responsibility as something that we as, engaged community activists should be really pushing for. It is further along in the state of California. And here it's, the brainchild of Senator Bob Smith, who was also really the architect of the plastic pollution law. So we really ought to be, writing to our letters to the editor and just getting the word out about, what we can do to put the onus back on the manufacturers. I think that's a really, really critical thing. And then I talked about something that I raised, in the group is, is there a workaround where we can bring our own containers? Because I live in Takeout City here in West Windsor. And many more of us are going to be not working remotely, but, going from from home to train to back home. And, is there a way for us to bring our clean reusable containers to the restaurant and have the restaurant use our containers, or perhaps for the restaurant to provide, a clean reusable mason jar that we can bring back as a way of reducing polystyrene
I've
waste?
seen that where it's hard for a restaurant to, customize to your container, but I have seen restaurants, especially small kind of cafes, that will put it in a container that you can bring back and they'll take it. I think that's it. That would be a really good thing for us to advocate for as well. So,
Joanne, any particular restaurants locally that you can think
um,
of?
locally, it's mostly vendors at the farmers market who will do
Okay,
it.
right.
Yeah.
All right.
But I was on a webinar about this. There were places in New York City, mostly in like districts that had lots of office workers and lots of people regulars who came in every day. That was where they were most likely to happen. So it's doable.
It's doable.
Yeah.
Cool.
So any other rooms that want to report out?
Well, I can report for group 4. We did talk a lot about composting. I learned about learned more about the worm bins of composting. Learned what not to put in compost piles. So about some people's experience with that. Scott, anything else that I'm missing here from our group?
Carol shared Terra
Oh, yes.
Preta, and she put that in the chat too.
Yeah, tell them what that is, Carol. Yeah.
That is a community recycling program, compost program. You might have seen their handbills on Facebook, and they've been next door neighbor and all sorts. They've been advertising quite a bit, and he picks it up after a week from your house and gives you a clean bin, a 5-gallon bin. So for our family, that's working great because we're not really want to do a big compost pile in our yard, but instead to have him take it each week. And it's Dolph Gerds. I think many of you might know him or seen him in some of the events in Hopewell Valley last week and some of the programs on zero waste. So the information's there if you might want to check it out.
I'll add it to the resources too, Carol.
Thanks.
Any last words? We can hear from one more room. If not, I just want to thank you all for being here tonight, for being a part of this session, for being patient with me when I can't figure out how to do stuff. And I just want to remind you that we will have online resources. They'll probably be on our webpage, the coalition webpage, but if you can't figure out where to find it, you can email our green team, hvgreenteam@gmail.com, and I can send you the link as soon as it's up. So that and remind you that there's more stuff happening this week with the Greening Together, lots of good fun stuff to do. So thank you all for participating tonight. I think we all were able to learn from each other. It's really a community effort to live more sustainably. So thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
Thanks, Joanne.
Thanks,
Thank
Joanne.
you.
Do you want my PowerPoint or no? For the
Oh, yeah. Do you want to send it? Because then I can just capture your resources, right?
that's what I was thinking would probably be as we were logging out. Okay, I'll do that. Thanks, Joanne.
Okay.
Have
Yeah,
a good night.
figure out how to save the chat.
Do you know how to? Because I do.
Well,
The 3 dots on the bottom there. You got
and
it?
save everything?
Yeah, it saves it in a weird spot though. So like it'll save it to some weird folder. Like it's not obvious. So when you save it, make sure you know look where it's going.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. See ya.